Okay, very good afternoon to Chia Chen. Okay, how are you, Chia Chen? How are you doing?
Hi,
Okay,
hi.
okay, maybe just for the benefit of our sectors in SST, maybe would you like to introduce yourself and what do you do for a living?
Okay, so I graduated from SST. Was it last year? I think. Yeah. So um, now I am interning in a sense that I never actually stopped during poly, and after O level, I'm still working there. For this company called Tinker Tanker. So under one of our brands called Tinker Academy, we actually teach programming classes. So one of the things we found was when we were brainstorming on coming up with a curriculum plan, we're like, it would be really cool on a virtual lesson to just circle up like a button and be like, hey, look at this thing. And then we spend the next 30 minutes being sidetracked by that and going, is there actually an app out there on the App Store that can do that for me? I have an iPad and an Apple Pencil. Why
Mhm.
hasn't anyone built this yet? And then we were like, one of the workarounds was you know how Apple has this thing called Sidecar where your display goes onto
Yep,
your iPad.
yep, exactly.
So you can buy like a $2 drawing app where
Mm-hmm.
you can use your Apple Pencil and then draw. But that wasn't like the experience wasn't that nice.
Mm.
Like setting up Sidecar, and we were teaching programming, so it's like every bit of performance you can save is quite important because Xcode simulator and whatnot will kill your Mac.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So,
that's pretty
so
much how we
yeah.
got.
So you are more interested in solving finding a solution to this challenge of yours, okay, through a software method rather than a physical hardware.
Yeah, because primarily we actually teach coding with Swift and stuff. So we
Okay,
were like, oh, this is nice. And yeah.
okay. So what were some of the idea triggers that you came up with, or that triggers you to okay, you must look a certain form, before you even start to do your coding, or give it some certain shape and form to your program or to your app.
So the first part was pretty much just like we looked at the solution and then I was like, no, this doesn't really make sense. Why are you putting in so much work just to set up? Like if let's say an actual teacher who doesn't really have the free time like us to do this nonsense and isn't so invested into tech to just know, oh, I can use Sidecar and I can use this. We can make their experience better. Why not we do it? And then YJ, who is the co-founder, he actually taught some of the Sec2s, replacing Jonathan Chua for a bit.
Mm.
Um, he was just like, no, don't actually build it. And then I was like, you know what? I should actually just prove him wrong. And I just spent
Mm.
the weekend coming up with some sort of a minimum viable product. So the
Okay.
purpose of a minimum viable product is basically to prove that, yes, this technology does work and we can make this actually viable.
Mm. So maybe for the benefit of our Sec 2 students, so MVP of a minimum viable product, we want to explain what is it all about.
So it's basically just presenting the core functionalities of your app. So
Mm.
like when we are coming up with ideation, like when we thought of friction, we were just like, okay, maybe you can communicate over the USB cable. You can draw on your iPad and it shows up on your screen. So those are things that are technically possible, like if you search enough, but we didn't know whether we could actually achieve it ourselves or not. So it
Mm.
was important to have an MVP so that we don't actually spend a lot of time just driving very deep and then going like, oh, I can't actually communicate on USB and then like everything's to waste.
I understand. Okay. So you actually like spend over one weekend to just come up with the MVP version of it.
Uh, so we actually started a bit earlier. So we came up with like design sketches on this
Mm.
software called Figma. It's quite similar to Keynote,
Mm.
except a bit more professional.
Mm.
But we came up with design sketches and we're like, wouldn't it be funny if we just used like a retro Mac interface instead of a proper interface? And it really helps because it gives you the air that like there's a very high quality app here that someone put in a lot of time into when we finished it in a week. Yeah.
Okay. For the benefit of the students, okay, I think I myself, I think I was invited by Chia Chen to try out the app. Okay. So what struck me something quite different was I think the user interface. I think like what Chia Chen mentioned is a bit on the retro side. Okay. So what was this inspiration to make the UI or the user interface something different? Yeah.
Uh, the main reason is because drawing apps tend to have like a very generic interface where it's just like you just draw stuff, and I felt like okay, we have the ability to now experiment a lot because it's basically a blank canvas. Um, yeah, but we have the ability to just like experiment because it is a huge interface, and we haven't actually seen any prior app trying to do this, so we can do whatever we want. And also, since you're connecting to a Mac, there's some
Mm.
sort of a link when you use a retro Mac interface.
Okay. Okay. So just out of curiosity, what were some of the aha moments or maybe the setbacks or the failures that you and your team face along the way?
Some of the problems we faced was first we realized that okay, people actually want to draw on like full screen windows because when you're teaching a class, you're like sometimes you have your window in full screen and then you're like, I can't circle here because my thing doesn't go over, and
Mm.
that took a while to resolve. And other issues were like the way we were communicating over USB wasn't technically supported by Apple,
Okay.
so
Okay.
we couldn't get onto the Mac App Store. So we had to figure
Mm.
out how to distribute outside of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there were some of the setbacks. So how did your team like discuss, trying to resolve these specific challenges that you guys have?
So the Mac App Store thing was quite late on, about like last Sunday, I believe. It was when I already convinced my I think he's my boss. Yeah, okay, my boss, that yes, we should actually build this, and it is viable, and
Mm.
it doesn't make it isn't like completely a joke when originally it was just a joke to prove him wrong, but now it's sort of commercially viable. So therefore we were working together on how are we going to actually market this thing and how are we going to push this thing out to people.
I think for our Sec 2 students, if there's like one piece of advice that you would like to pass on to our Sec 2 students that currently is going through the InnoFest event, what do you think would be that one piece of advice to get them to get started on looking at challenges, identifying them, and working towards trying to find solutions for them? What is that one piece of advice that you would like to give to your juniors in SST?
um, Problems don't have to be like your large scale, like I want to solve world hunger or something. It can be like small things that while some people might be like, oh, this doesn't actually annoy me, this is just a very small issue. um
Mm.
you realize that if someone who might be very techy says that, it might just be because they are very familiar with like just like wrangling all of these cables and getting stuff to work together, but
Mm.
not everyone in the field is similar. Or another takeaway you can have from this is you're just
Mm.
looking at friction and going, who on earth would pay do that? I think it's 298 on the App Store for this. I'm
Mm.
just gonna build it myself in a weekend, which I mean, it's completely justified. Go ahead.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Chetan. Okay, I think we've come to the end of our interview, right? Okay. Any last final message to your juniors now that they are going to the InnoFest event?
Uh, I would say good luck. Even if you don't like manage to win or like get first place or get to the top, there are still a lot of important learning opportunities when you get to like put into practice a lot of skills you learned in the classroom, and um you at least get like a safe environment where you can actually try things out and experiment.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chetan. Okay. Thanks for the interview. Thanks for spending some time being interviewed by me. Okay, and hopefully the Sec 2 students can gain some insight, okay, some benefit from our sharing.